This week, NBR is looking at the main candidates for the Auckland mayoralty. And with me this afternoon is long-time businessman, local politician and corporate Mr Fix-It, Wayne Brown, who's currently second in the polls. Wayne, welcome. Now, the port is one of your bugbears. Tell us about that.
The port, what makes Auckland a wonderful city is the Waitemata Harbour, in my view. And if you're a person arriving from overseas or from out of town, you come down Queen Street. At the bottom end of Queen Street, you've got Commercial Bay and Britomart, two wonderful developments. At the ferry buildings, if you turn left, it's really nice and modern, and people are engaged with the harbour. They're happy. There's high-paid jobs, nice buildings, bars, entertainment. It's cool. If you turn right, you gaze at an ugly, empty, or sometimes full car park, behind which will be a hideous slab-sided calf import boat, and you won't actually see Rangitoto or the harbour or the Hauraki Gulf. That's what you'll see. And that area that you see pays no money and no rates, no dividend. And in fact, if you go further along there is a whole lot of industrial mess. It looks like it's from Gdansk, and you'll finish up behind a great pile of empty container boxes. And so all that $6 billion worth of land pays no rates and no dividends. And even when it did pay a dividend, which was some years ago, it paid $50 million, a quick glance at the balance sheet showed that they borrowed the $50 million. So, and when international business people call in Auckland and see me, and I do have that sort of an activity in my life, without fail, within 2 days, every one of them asks me, why is the most valuable land in your country used as a car park? And they don't even realise that the car importers don't even pay to be there. They get 3 days free parking.
Right.
It'd be $500 if you pay to park at the Britomart car park for 3 days. So it's an appalling, ugly waste of money. And on top of it, not only does it not pay any money for it, that actually wastes money.
Are you sure you're not doing covert good works for Northland as well by trying to get it?
No, that's just rubbish. I hate that. I really hate that statement. I was just kind of joking. I know, but a lot of people pick it up, and that's what Gough picked up as his funny little way of not knowing anything about anything. I was appointed as a chairperson of a group to look into this, and I've been appointed as chairpersons mostly of things that have just broken down, like Vector or Transpower or something like that. But and you find that you go in there with the people who've just made a mess of things. But this was a pretty good group. I had real experts from truck ownership, railway operations, freight forwarding, and everyone bar one lived in Auckland, and I lived partly in Auckland and partly up north, and the other one was a professor of mechanical engineering who specialised in digital modelling of freight flows, and she comes from Christchurch. So there was no interest in Northland. It was interesting in fixing Auckland. The benefits don't come to Northland, the benefits come to Auckland, because we get $6 billion worth of wonderful land back over a period of time, and the harbour is reintegrated in with the city, and it's a benefit to New Zealand as well. I mean, we spoke to 80 groups, the sorts of people who agreed with what we came up with, and involved in New Zealand's probably best businessman, Don Braid. You know, these people see properly. And I'm amazed at the response it got. I mean, I was still at school when they moved the port out of Sydney Harbour.
Right.
Like, it's 40 years later,
Yes.
and the only person that thinks it's got 30 years left was the chief executive, who was subsequently sacked and is now in court because of accidentally killing the staff. Mm-hmm. So that's why I kind of react to where I hear that sort of nonsense. It's the benefits come to New Zealand, mostly to Auckland, and also to New Zealand. And I might as well get rid of some of the myths at the moment, because people say, oh, no, it'll make things cost more. 50% of everything in the Auckland shops comes in now over Tauranga and is railed up to Southdown, Wiri. And you've never had to pay extra because it came in from there. In fact, it doesn't cost any more at all. And they get just as much. The stuff comes from the wharf to Tauranga by rail as quickly as it comes to from the wharf to Wirral by truck. And one of the first things I'll do as mayor is to instruct, the port's got to pay to be there, which is $400 million a year, miserable return even at that. Plus, the containers have got to go on a train out to Wirral Southdown. So that removes the trucks from the motorways. It removes a demand for a whole lot of additional infrastructure to get the trucks through the city. And if you're looking for greenhouse gas savings, you go from 150 containers on a train uses the same diesel as 27 trucks. So you get a big win-win-win. So that's what drove me. And after this thing ran into a negative response from the council, I went on a sort of a speaking tour just to explain to business people, business audiences, what we were doing. It was the managed transfer of things out of Auckland, not just shutting it straight overnight, but to get some return. And every time I spoke, at least 3 or 4 people would say, well, that makes sense. Why aren't you the mayor? And I didn't think much about it for a while, but then again, when I saw who put their hand up, I thought, man, I can do that job better than those people, so I did.
What other things are business people telling you? Obviously, Queen Street is a problem, but what else are they sort of telling you when you meet them around the traps?
Well, Auckland City goes from Wellsford, who never thought they were part of Auckland, to Pukekohe, where I own some buildings, which didn't want to be part of Auckland. And so I talked to business people all over, and I launched my campaign out at Rosebank Road Business Association because the growth of Auckland is out to west, to be fair. And so I'm listening to business people right across the whole city. And they are worried about the massive continuing rise of council's debt. They're worried about the onslaught of growth of rates. I mean, it's 10 or 12 years since Rodney Hyde, who should have stuck to ballroom dancing, announced the Auckland Super City, and that promised reduced costs, greater efficiency and better engagement with ratepayers. None of those things happened. None of them happened at all. And in terms of the CBD, the CRL, the City Rail Link, has kind of made things pretty hard as well. It's blocked off all of Albert Street. And a lot of those things happen because there are no engineers on board when they make decisions. And not that engineers are the greatest things in the world, but if you don't, we understand what you spend your money on. Most of the money goes to things. The biggest risk ratepayers have got at the moment is City Rail Link. And there seems to be no urgency from council about any of the infrastructure projects. And I know infrastructure, like I own roads, I own water companies. And first thing I'd do is tell the CRL contractors to reduce your presence in Albert Street to 1 3-metre strip to get the concrete trucks in. They've taken the whole road. And most of it, if you look over those fences, it's lunchrooms and lavatories. I mean, there's no need for them to be there. And those poor businesses there they don't need a hand up, they need customers. And you don't get custom if there's a safety fence a metre in front of your building, in front of your shop. And the council allows contractors to invade public spaces at no cost and no care. And if they're made to pay for being there, you watch the utes will disappear, the cones will disappear, the safety fences will disappear, and they'll use only what they need. But if you're allowed to just park your ute there and shove a whole lot of cones out, why wouldn't you?
Just finally, because I did ask Viv Beck this, are you splitting the right vote, the centre-right vote? No,
she is. I mean, she was 4th in the last poll, and I'm standing not on a centre-right or centre-left thing. My two things, main ones, are finish the infrastructure before we even think of anything new, like light rail. Finish what we're doing, and stop wasting money. Doesn't matter whether you're a Labour voter or a National voter. Who's going to put their hands and say, no, I want to waste more money? And so, and in terms of, I'm definitely kind of in the middle. Economically, I'm hard right, much harder than Viv or any others. Socially, I'm very, very open. You know, I really don't like discrimination against anybody. You know, and because the people that we discriminate are having enough bad time anyhow, so we should stop that. I'm very liberal. I mean, FISO is economically liberal and actually socially quite conservative. I'm the other way around. And so where do you put that? So, and each week I get friendly texts from John Key and Helen Clark and advising me, one on economics and one on social things, and it's kind of nice. So that's, I'm not easy to shove it in a pocket, and I think that being close to one or other party is disastrous for Auckland. We have a mayor right now who's solidly in the Labour Party, and they tell him what to do. It's not the other way around. You know, he says, "Oh, I don't like Three Waters." Oh, well, you can say that, but you can't, not allowed to do anything about it. Just take the money, because otherwise you won't get your nice job in England. I mean, we need somebody who's really independent and can stand up. And Fran O'Sullivan got that. She knows me pretty well. She said he can be abrasive, but he will stand up to Wellington, because this is ridiculous. This is the biggest city in New Zealand, and we allow people in Wellington to tell us what we're going to have in terms of infrastructure. That is completely nuts. You know, the light rail, which is anywhere between 14 billion and 28 billion, depending on which day of the month it is unable to explain what problem it's fixing. Right. And where did that come from? It came from a group of civil servants in Ministry of Transport who've never built anything in their lives, advised by Waka Kotahi, who've never built anything on time or on budget, along with a Minister of Transport who's probably, or infrastructure, who's never built a veranda. We have enough skills here that we will decide what we want, and Wellington's role is to send us the money, because they got it from us in the first place.
Wayne, thank you very much for talking to NBR.